Hey, Alicia, welcome to the Girl Techno podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
I am so grateful and humbled to be with you today and really excited about our conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be a good conversation. We'll talk about real estate. We'll get to know your story because on this show, we love to connect with people's story. I feel like we connect with people through their stories. And so that's one of the things that I like. And so to jump us off, I want to talk a bit about your background, your struggles and your triumphs. Because I know you mentioned before that you went through homelessness, but also you achieved great academic success. So kind of give us the backstory on how everything happened and how you came out on top.
Gosh, I'm so grateful to share this because I just believe that your pain is your purpose, no matter how small or how enormous of a journey that you've walked with pain. God wants to produce some purpose from that. And so if we can just detach, how we feel about the situation, we would have more confidence in sharing some of our pain and not trying to hide it. You are not what you've been through. So having said that, hey,
Yes.
everybody, my name's Alishia. And, I'm just a regular person who, God chose to walk a journey and to come out and help other people come through that journey as well. And I remember being 26 years old with a baby in my belly and a baby on my hip and going through a divorce. And me being from Boston, and at the time I was living in Delaware, which is where I had graduated from Delaware State University. Shout out to my alum DSU. And so, I'm just, young, newly born again Christian. And I just had this picture of what I thought what would bring my life happiness. Having been someone who, was used to having a very strained on and off relationship with my dad. And I didn't know that I was looking for dad in every relationship, and that I was thinking that marriage would be my promise of this life that I never got to live as a kid, where I can have a full family unit and have just someone who accepts all of the love that I want to give, and someone who can give me all of the love that I never got from a male figure. So subconsciously, I was pursuing that all of my life, as a teenager, and then being a young adult. Like I said, newly Christian, and everybody's talking about marriage is great, and I'm like, I want that. And so I just married the first thing that came along, battling with my self-esteem and my self-worth. And even though I Shawnee, I saw the red flags, I heard the sirens, but I just plowed right on through. Like, Lord, you'll just make it good. We'll just work on it as we go along. It'll just be okay. Because who else is gonna want me? This guy's showing me that he wants me. And so we didn't make it to the first wedding anniversary, sis. We were separated before we even celebrated a year. Got back together.
Wow.
Because that's the right thing to do, right? You don't divorce. God hates divorce. And so even if it's, the wrong person, let's just make this work. And
try to make it
we
work.
had Caleb. Caleb came along, and, I thought Caleb would make it better. And it just got worse. A lot of competitiveness, and nobody really knew who their role was. And, so there was no camaraderie in the marriage. And so Soraya, I don't want to say accidentally came along. I want to say unexpectedly came along. And I was just devastated. I'm like, I have this horrible marriage. My husband is so mean and evil to me. Like, why would you let me get pregnant? And so I spent a lot of my second pregnancy angry and bitter. And we separated again because I just remember having this epiphany. We had like a physical altercation, one of many. They happened to be pregnant. He sat on my stomach, and I was just like, why am I allowing this? Like, why am I here? And I remember getting up from that altercation and just seeing my life 10 years ahead of time, seeing that this is what it was going to be like. So it's almost like I was just running from a burning building, and I picked Caleb up out of the crib and I packed everything I could. And I was just running from my life, running from my peace. I didn't have any answers. I didn't know what was what. I just knew that I couldn't do this. And so that led me through a journey, it really led me through a journey. And I ended up, getting on bed rest because of complications with the pregnancy. And so I lost everything, like my job, livelihood. And I hit rock bottom. I was on state assistance, and I'm this young chocolate looking girl, pregnant, and so now my self-esteem is really troubled because it's like, I don't want people to think I'm some unwed mother, just judging myself. Like, even if I was, but I was putting these harsh judgments on myself. And so moving through the process, I just realized that, first of all, my mother was a single parent. So I saw her get knocked down and keep getting up, get knocked down and keep getting up. And so that's all I knew was to go into survival mode, like my mom did when she was a single mom, and get up. So I got up. I eventually, Caleb and Soraya were about 1 and 2 years old. And I knew immediately that I needed to change my career. I was a high school teacher, and I just wanted to be present for my kids. High school teacher that's going to come home with me every day, grading papers, writing lesson plans. So I was like, I need to just change my career to a 9-to-5. So I went back to school to get my master's degree. And when I got to the last year of school, I had to do 700 hours of internship. And so trying to negotiate with my new employer, who had a PhD in psychology. I mean, like, he knew the track that I was on, and I'm like, hey, I need some time to work part-time so that I can, do my internship. And he was like, no, you either work full-time or you quit. So I found myself at a crossroad again, like, did I have my destiny in his hands? No. So, survival mode again, running out the burning building. I was like, okay, let's go. Let's see where this goes. A bachelor's degree, and I'm trying to get jobs in the mall, like Bath and Body Works, and anywhere I could, without lying on my application and not saying I had a bachelor's degree, and no one would hire me. So I didn't have any income, and so that I would not get evicted, I proactively put in my 60-day notice, looking for a miracle. And I did get an internship, and my internship was 2 hours away from where I lived in Delaware. It was in DC, because I thought, well, maybe I'll move to DC. I'll be able to make more money. And, God had a plan, but I didn't know what it was. And so in my last semester of grad school, we became homeless. There was nowhere for me to go. I thought my ex-husband and I would reconcile, but it was just so toxic and fiery that I had to really choose reality over religion. I had to choose peace over what people thought I should be doing. You're not coming home with me in this very toxic and abusive environment. And so we moved into a homeless shelter that only gave me 30 days to stay there. And I, again, in survival mode, knocking on doors, banging on windows until I got an opportunity for my children and I to have housing. And I stumbled upon a local housing authority. And they were like, oh, everybody says they're homeless. I'm like, no, I'm homeless. Do you need a letter? What you need? So I brought them back a letter from the shelter stating, yep, she resides here. And then they wanted something to say I was in school, whatever they needed. And about 3 months later, I was living with some friends, and I got a letter in the mail with my address. And so that sounds exciting, but it's my address in the hood. So I'm like, okay, God, like, amen. It's my own place, my own toilet paper. So we move in there. I gave things away, gave furniture away. I was just like, Lord, I just believe you for new. I just believe for new. And, for quite some time, I had wanted to go into real estate, but I didn't really understand the industry. Like, I saw myself wearing nice suits and selling houses, but I didn't know, like, how they made their money and commission, and how do I get health insurance, and what if I never sell a house? So it was like I dipped my toe in and out the water on that. And I also always wanted to own a home, and no one in my family had ever done so. And so those were some things that, like, were desires of mine, but I didn't know how they would come to pass. And so when I moved in, I had to go sign my lease. You have a case manager. And I just felt God impressing upon my heart to dress up to go sign my lease. So I put on this black business suit with my little briefcase and my little stilettos. And I want them to know this girl is different. This hood girl.
Yes. Yes, stepping in here differently.
And I walked up into Mr. Alexander's office, which was my case manager, and I said, I want to own a house. I don't even remember sitting down. When I walked through the door, I said, hey, I want to own a house. I want to know what programs you have. And he was like, okay. So he gave me the brochure to the program, and I didn't meet any of the criteria, but I walked away with some hope, you know. And a couple days later, I had a little temp job, almost done with school. And I got a call from Mr. Alexander, still the first week in the apartment, had not finished unpacking much of anything yet. He said, you know, you made such an impression on us when you came to sign your lease. We want to put you in the homeownership program. And as he's talking to me, like it's like a Charlie Brown womp, 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 womp moment, you know, he's talking and I'm looking around the room at all of the boxes I had not unpacked. And he's like, we have 2 houses available. I want you, here are the addresses. Go pick out which one you want and call me back. Now, mind you, I'm getting this call as I'm walking through the door from work. And so I'm standing in between the threshold of the door, the screen door. If you can picture this, the screen door and the doorway. And I'm like, what? So I hopped out of the doorway and I hopped back in the car. And I'm driving down the road, Shawnee, and I was just like, you know, I sometimes when you're in the midst of darkness, you can't see where you're going. All you can just, like, you've ever been in a dark room at night and you're trying to find the shoe, you're trying to find the cup, to, you know, and you're just feeling around. And that's where I was in that season of my life, is I'm trying to find the destination, because God, I know that this is not how it's supposed to end for me. And if I just hold on to some slither of hope, I know that there's going to be purpose behind this. And so I'm riding down the highway and I'm like, well, this is the housing authority. Like, what are these houses going to really look like? But I heard in my heart, like, don't despise small beginnings. And so I went to the first neighborhood and I didn't like the houses. They were too close together. And when I got to the second neighborhood, I just stopped the car in front of the house and I just cried, because it was a moment where I experienced where, like, you pray something, but you don't know you're praying. You're just talking to yourself. Yeah. And I used to talk to myself and say, oh, I love houses with gray siding and black shutters. This was a house with gray siding and black shutters. Oh, I love houses with brick. This was a gray house with black shutters with a little patch of red brick on the right-hand side. And I just sat there and I had a moment where I felt like, you know, God really loved me in that moment. When you're going through divorce and you're a Christian woman and you feel ostracized and you feel judged and you feel alienated and all of those feelings. And I was like, does God still love me? Are we okay? Like, I didn't want a divorce, and then, like, I probably shouldn't have married him. Are we okay? Yeah. And I really felt released from all of that. Once I pulled up in front of that house that I knew was mine, I just felt God saying, this is new. Just don't look back. Just walk into your new. And so we moved in there the next week. My neighbors were looking out their window like, you getting evicted already? And that program, it was a program. So they would buy houses in the program, Shawnee, and they would put their long-standing, good paying tenants in there. I didn't meet any of that. I just moved in. I just, you know, they would allow you to pay rent for 3 years. A portion of your rent would go into an escrow to help you with down payment and closing costs. You had 3 years to kind of work with their local housing counseling program and go to settlement on the house. And so I did that. And in 2008, when the market was crashing, I was walking away with the keys to my house that I owned.
That is amazing. I mean, you said so much. And one, like you said, I think our greatest moments come out of our most darkest places, right? When we're facing hardship, when we're going through things so unexpectedly, is when we rise to the occasion. But like you said, just that faith and that grace that God gives us, you know, to really just to hold on. Because like you said, you kind of feeling your way around. You don't really know what's going to happen. That's what blind faith is, right?
For
You don't really
sure.
know what's going to happen, but you just know that no matter what, he's going to take care of it. And
Right.
I think so many of us as women, we deal with a lot of that. And I've interviewed so many entrepreneurs on this show, women who have been through divorce and who became entrepreneurs because of out of
Mhm.
divorce and things that they've been through. And I always think it's such a great story to hear. You know, that they didn't stay in that place. They didn't let this marriage that ended break them, right? Well, they was able to rebuild and then see light at the end of the tunnel. And so I just feel like your story is amazing. It's like it was just all God ordained because you just got into that place a week.
It's crazy.
It's like you, like you said,
I lived there a total of 2 weeks.
yeah, you didn't even really unpack anything until he's like, no, I'm gonna bless you with a house because that's not what you really want. This is what you truly want.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing. That is an absolute amazing story to share. And it's inspiring because even in myself, when I go through things and I'm facing some things right now, and when you said something that was so key, when you're feeling it, like I said, you're in the darkness, you're just trying to feel your way around.
For sure.
You know what I mean? You're feeling your way around, trying things to see if you can come out of it, when you're coming out of it. You know what I mean? But what you just said just really kind of inspired me. And I'm like, man, this must have been an episode for me. Because
I love that.
seriously, because of some things that I'm facing, and I'm just like, wow, this is exactly what I needed to hear, because I feel like I'm in this I'm going through this darkness, this thing in my life, and I'm trying to figure it out. I'm feeling my way around, and I'm praying and I'm staying faithful, but I'm, you know, like you said, but I'm not stopping. I'm continuing forward. I'm not going to fall down and be sad about it. I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm feeling my way through because I know that there's better for me, and I know that this is not where it ends for me.
It's so true. We go from faith to faith and glory to glory. And on the rise to that, we hit winds. The rain comes.
Yes.
We get pushed down some steps, and we have to get back up and walk back up the steps. God doesn't tell us that the in-between. He doesn't never tell us about the in-between.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because we'd say no.
Oh yeah.
We would say no. And I think we see his greatest glory when we, like you said, put on the blinders and just walk by faith.
That's really true and true. And this, I mean, like I said, the story was just absolutely amazing. And I think so many people don't know necessarily about, is that program still around? Because I don't think a lot of people know about that type of program.
Yeah, well, as a real estate professional now, I definitely know that I was, kind of like what they call it, like a needle in a haystack kind of a situation.
Yeah.
Now that was in Delaware, it was in Kent County, Delaware.
Yeah.
Through the housing authority of the city that I was living in, it is not common at all. But I feel like, God knows how to meet us right where we are.
Yeah.
And where I was, I needed that. As I sit today now, having been in the real estate industry almost 7 years, and that's the first question that a lot of my, first-time home buyer clients ask me, who they've never bought a home before, and like me, they've never seen anyone in their family do it, and they've not had conversations at the kitchen table about credit and financial literacy.
Yeah.
And they feel like, I have to have a whole lot of money to buy a house or immaculate credit. Can someone just give me a chance and let me rent to own? And you don't have to do that. Like, there's so many amazing programs out there for people. Like, I have clients with 600 credit scores buying houses.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a super, 800 credit score or $100,000 in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But just, being in a position to allow somebody to educate you and walk you through the journey and, teach you something that you don't know. And it is a faith walk, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that, in having helped almost over 200 people, that it is possible for anybody to buy a home, regardless of, your income level. Everybody can have a piece of that American dream. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that, and you let me know this. I think most people, because they, like you said, believe that you got to have this perfect credit score, you got to have all this money, that stops them from even seeking out someone like you to even just ask the questions, because they already feel like they made up in their mind that I don't have a credit score, I don't have the money, I'm not going to get a house.
Right. I mean, that's why I celebrate
Mhm.
people for making the big little step of just calling me. I'm like, yay,
Yeah.
like you did a big thing today by calling me. And you're like, I know I did. You know I did that too, right?
Exactly.
Or they come see me in person for a consultation, and sometimes it's like wrestling people down to the floor just to get them
Yeah.
in to see me for a consultation. One, either they feel shameful of the fact that they don't really know a lot, or maybe they've
Yeah.
had a couple of hiccups on their credit, or two, they've had bad experiences and they feel like someone's trying to push them and sell them something that they don't want, or that they're going to be judged. So I just let them know, like, hey, like, we're just going to have a conversation. You can ask whatever you want, and we're just going to have fun. You don't need to bring anything. Yep, just bring your smile and all your questions, and we're just going to have fun. Because,
Yeah.
it can
Yeah,
be
I
a
know.
scary thing.
Mm.
In my situation, again, like I was coming from a lot of self-condemnation. So like I was always bouncing checks, or always
Yeah.
had like negatives in my bank account. Like the program only gave me 3 years to matriculate through it and buy a house. So like in year two, us overachievers, I'm like, I'm gonna be year two, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
ready. I'm not gonna have
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
through the whole 3 years. Ran from the budgeting class. When I saw the budgeting class on the schedule, I was like, oh, I'm sick to
Yeah.
because I was scared of budgets. Um, but just buying a home, like you have to, at least at that time, like you had to be 12 months without any kind of overdrafts in your account. So in year two, I had
Mm.
an overdraft in my account. I cried. I mean, first of all, my housing counselor
Yeah.
was a Holy Spirit filled woman. I mean, she was amazing. God just put the right people, the right team of people around me
Yeah.
to get me through that faith journey. I just remember her rubbing my back in that appointment, and like tears falling on her desk on the paper. She was like, "Girl, you're gonna get your house. You're gonna have your husband with the, you. God has a husband that already got the big house. But don't you worry about that. You
Yeah.
got another year. And I'm like, oh." So just having people that can speak life to you, and that's who I became now in my industry. That's my why today. Is letting people know that give yourself grace to make mistakes. Like this
Yeah.
is a whole new life change. It's a whole new mindset change when you've
Yeah.
always grown up. Like I grew up in the hood. I grew up across the street from the projects. I grew up, my mom calling me saying, "Don't
Yeah.
come home tonight. They just shot through the house." You know what I'm saying? Like that's the environment I grew up in. Like we had the welfare cheese. Like I saw
Yeah.
my grandma post food stamps out the book. You know what I mean? I'm coming out of college on Medicaid and
Yeah.
college degree on food stamps. So, there's a mindset shift that has to happen so that you can believe that you can do it, and people have to give themselves grace as they learn a different way in order to achieve their dream.
Yeah, you're right. I think you said something important about the mindset because their mind is already set to the place where I don't have these things, so I can't achieve it.
That's right.
And then it's that thing of like you said before, people get embarrassed because they have overdrafts, they don't have that much money, their credit score is bad, so they get embarrassed by all these different things. So it won't allow them to take those steps because they're just too scared to do it.
Yeah.
And
And then
that's
they'll go to Mr. Google and start Googling a
yeah.
whole bunch of stuff that
Hmm.
that makes it even worse, scares them away. And I'm like, I said to one of my clients yesterday, no Google. Call me. Call your realtor. People is confused. So, but yeah, it's such a rewarding position to be in, to see
Yeah.
somebody go from fragile, fretful to accomplishing their dream and really building legacy. And that's what I was able to do. But had it not been for the painful journey that I went through to
Yeah.
become homeless, to then become a homeowner, it
Hmm.
was a double blessing, of being able to break cycles in my family of poverty and lack of financial literacy, to now I can educate other people in various
Hmm.
communities about how to build their credit, how to invest, and what it means to actually own versus rent,
Yeah.
and how to build that legacy for their families as well. And I'm incredibly grateful.
Yes. So when you got into real estate, were you selling homes at that time, and then your career kind of elevated from there? Like, how did you start?
Picture you just painted, because when I first got into real estate, my church family was so supportive. And so every Sunday, this one
Mm.
old little lady would walk up to me and say, "Did you sell a house today? Did you sell a house this week, Alicia?" And being in real estate, you are really an independent contractor. Like, no one's
Yeah.
hiring you. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
I like to
Yeah.
analogize it to one of a few industries like it, which is like the cosmetology industry, or the barbering industry. It's
Yeah.
like, after I get out your chair and you make me beautiful is when I pay you, right? So realtors get compensated the same
Yeah.
way. We front load a lot of hours, a lot of our expertise, a lot of relationship building, in hopes that at the end,
Mhm.
you will let us take you to the finish line so that we can meet our family and put gas in the car, you know.
I know. Yeah.
So initially, how I got started really was like how God does me, is my back has to be against the wall in order for me to just say, okay, I'll do it. Well, like, after I got my master's degree, I slipped into the comfort zone of, getting a job in my field. And I became a workforce development
Yeah.
specialist. It wasn't what I really wanted to do. It was I was a single mom, and I had to take the jobs that came to me.
Mhm.
My dream job was being a dean
Yeah.
of students at a prestigious HBCU somewhere. You come to the dean Alicia's office.
Yeah.
But that was not what the
Oh,
Lord had
yeah.
for me. And I'm like, that's the job that's going to give me the six
Yeah.
figures and the nice big house. So why not? But
Mhm.
like, all those doors were shut. And so everything on my resume was pointing me into case management in the workforce development industry, where I'm so grateful that God gave me opportunity
Mhm.
to do that, because then I started interfacing with women like me, single moms going through divorces, on welfare, like in homeless shelters,
Yeah.
sleeping in their cars because the homeless shelter only gives you 30 days. And, after they put you up in hotels, if you still don't have a place to live, the state says, now we're going to take your children. And so, the system working against, women who were in situations they didn't
Yeah.
ask to be in, and they needed grace and guidance, and they needed hope. And so me being able to, close my office door and say, okay, let me pray with you, and here's my story. And listen, you're seeing me
Mhm.
behind this desk, looking all successful with my business suit on and my heels, but let me tell you how I got here, you know? And
Yes.
so I needed
Yes.
that
Yes.
season to be able to pour back out. But God started dealing with me about, okay, you are an entrepreneur. You came from a family of entrepreneurs. It's time now to move into entrepreneurship. And I'm like, oh, that was my grandmom. That was my mom. That wasn't me. I'm fine with a 9 to 5. I got FICO, FICO and the health insurance. And,
Yeah.
I know every 2 weeks we got some
Yeah.
money coming,
Yeah.
until every 2 weeks you don't have it because you're getting laid off, or
Yeah.
like, you don't have control of your destiny when you're at the mercy of someone else's
Mm-mm.
vision. And so I met my purpose
Yeah.
partner during
That's
that
true.
season of my life. Shout out to DJ Randy P, my amazing husband of 10 years, my boyfriend of 15 years,
Oh.
and an amazing bonus father
Yes.
to Caleb and Soraya. But I met him during that time, and
Oh.
he had been an entrepreneur since he was 12 years old. And so he was always pushing me, like, by the time I had authored a couple of books, Lonnie, I had started a
Yeah.
nonprofit organization called Empowered Women Ministries. And this is how he met me, because I was doing speaking engagements. And, so I was entrepreneurial, but I'm like, that's, on the side. We ain't doing that
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
time.
It's time to take that
And
leap.
so what happened is I got laid off. The whole joint got shut down. Like Jonah shouldn't have been on the boat. Now the boat rocking and everybody's affected. Wait, Jonah's in the boat and everybody got laid off. I was like, whoops.
Everybody. Yeah.
What is it? So in that season, and we were engaged in, and God was dealing with him about retiring from his job of 22 years and starting his business as well. And so he hears God, and he moves. God got to push me off a ledge, and then I jump. So
Yeah,
So I'm like,
listen.
yeah, do it. I support you. You know, he's like, you support me? Yep, go ahead. Because you're going to figure it out. But after getting laid
Yeah.
off, I tried to go back into the workforce and I could not. No one would hire me. My 5-page resume and all these credentials, and I couldn't get hired. And real estate kept coming back. Real estate kept
Yeah.
coming back. And so I finally went into real estate school in 2017 after kind of having a little bout with depression. And, like we got married, we relocated, and I don't do change really well. And I again, I'm in a dark room trying
Yeah.
to figure it out, and I'm frustrated. This is not what I'm used to. And so I'm cooking and gaining weight and baking and gaining weight. I'm like, we'll figure it out. But I went to get signed up for real estate school. And I also was afraid of testing. So that was another thing I kept using as an excuse.
Yeah.
Because as a teacher, I never passed the praxis. And so just a lot of limiting beliefs I had. But
Yeah.
once I matriculated through the school and I passed the test with flying colors, I just had a jolt of confidence, come about me. And so in my first year of real estate, I ended up serving 25 families. And then those 25 families end up telling their friends and families about me.
Yeah.
And then in my second year, I served 44 families. And so now I'm passed out somewhere because it's just me. I don't have an assistant. I don't even
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember being in Walgreens one day. I used to always go to Walgreens to buy my clients gift cards before settlement. And so the guy is bringing up my card, and he's like, hey, he said, you've been in here a lot this month. He said, how many houses have you sold? And I was
Business
like,
is good.
no. Because I used to always be afraid to write goals and look at them. Or my husband used to teach me, you got to know your numbers, look at your numbers. And for me, I don't want to see if I failed at something.
Yeah.
Nor
Yeah.
do I
I
want
get
to
that.
know how much I'm succeeding just in case I end up failing again. So is that fear of failure and the fear of success at the same time? But I went and looked at my numbers, and that was before I knew that I was in the high 30s of my numbers. That was in 2018, or 2018. And so, or no, it was 2019. And so I went back to the office and I looked at the report. I would get reports every week, and I would just never look at them, keep them in the office.
Yeah.
I looked at the report, and it said 36 addresses on there that I had sold already that year. And we were in the month of November-ish, October-ish.
Yeah.
And I was already at 36. And I had closings on the books for December. That's the time of year that's really slow for most realtors. December, I had 5 closings on the books in December. So
Oh my God.
I knew that this was bigger than just I'm selling houses. This was I'm walking into a new type of calling and purpose of
Yes.
giving people hope in this area. Because
Yes.
I tell people now, I've never sold a house. I've simply just helped almost 200 families believe that they could achieve their dream. And I've been the conduit between their prayer and God bringing them to their answer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's times I've had to pray with my clients. There's times that I've had to, give them the word of God. I know this looks impossible. Your settlement is 2 weeks from now, and you're hitting, an obstacle, a mountain. But this is just your Red Sea moment. God is releasing you from poverty. God's releasing you from generational curses. And here comes Pharaoh and his army saying, wait a minute, never mind. We want you back. This is just your Red Sea moment. Just use what's in your hand and speak to that Red Sea and tell it to part. You're going to be okay. We're going to get to that settlement table. That's why there's 37 reviews on my Google page. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but there's sometimes at night, I'm crying for these people. I'm interceding and I'm stressing. It's stressing me out. I don't know if it's going to work out, but I'm telling you it is.
I know, right? Rightfully.
Calling. It's a calling to me. It is a calling to me. And, I don't know what God has in store for me in the next 5 years, but now I'm saying yes to this. And he has blessed me tremendously. He's brought me out of poverty from me bringing others out of poverty.
Yes.
He to build a 6-figure real estate business in my third year. And then I'm able to pull other people into the industry that don't think they can do it and coach and teach and train them. So I built a team called the Optimism Group. And I
Yeah.
get to coach and train other agents to do the same thing I did, the way I did it, which is you give these people hope. You over service and over deliver and show these people you care about them, not about the check you get at the end, because you don't know if you're going to get that check, right? You've got to focus on what's important to your client. What is the goal for the client? Like
Mm-hmm.
get so invested in their dream that it becomes your dream. And that limping and bleeding, you're going to help them get there. And then you'll never want for anything in this industry. So all of the things I was afraid of that I first told you, like, what if I never sell a house? I've never been
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. I don't know if I can do this. And in the market that I started in was a very rural market.
Yeah.
Very, very Caucasian dominated real estate market. Like I used to see billboards and be like, I don't see me on them billboards. Are those people going to buy houses from me?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then in 2022, I became the first Black woman in that area to be in real estate, to be on a billboard.
Wow.
Ever
Wow.
in that location.
Yeah. That's an honor.
What did that do for other people of color, people that were Asian and Hispanic coming
Yeah.
into the industry, right? So,
Mhm.
We don't know what we're saying no to a lot of
Yeah.
times out of fear and discouragement, right?
Yeah.
God's not going to show us the whole picture until we step in the frame.
You step in.
Yeah.
You're so right. God, you said something that's so true. And I tell people all the time when I talk to entrepreneurs on this show, a lot of people's leaps are intentional and some people's leaps are unintentional. And you had an unintentional leap because like you said, I got laid off. So it's like I was already working on this thing. And then I decided to say, okay, I'm going to take that step of faith and I'm going to move into this full time versus, like you said, trying to figure it out. And it's so funny to me how I'm listening to you and I keep going back to my own story because I got laid off actually in August. And I said, and I've been doing the podcast for a while, while I was working, good job, top 6-figure salary. And then when I got laid off, I was like, oh my God.
Right.
You know what I mean? You hit that thing of like, what am I going to do? That salary was really good coming in every month. I was like, but God, I've been asking to go directly into entrepreneurship. I'm having a podcast about women taking a leap into entrepreneurship. You know what I mean? And so it's like, eventually God is like, okay, it's your turn, and I got pushed in and I've been on this road. And that's what I'm saying. Listen to your story today. I'm telling you, Alishia, it's so inspiring because everything you've gone through is kind of like what I'm dealing with right now. Right? With figure things out, feeling through the dark. Okay, God, is this what you want me to do? I'm going to jump into this and I'm going to do it because the same thing, I'm really skilled. My career was in tech. So I'm really skilled at certain things. And I'm really skilled at certain things. And it's like, okay, the job offers are not coming in. So I need to make sure I do something because money still has to come in the household.
That's right.
And so just listening to your story and how you overcame and how God took you through to where you are now, it's inspiring. It really is inspiring. It's specifically to me because of the stuff that I'm going through. And it's like you're hearing your testimony is giving me hope. It's giving me the strength and the courage I need to fight on and continue on. Because I think sometimes when we're going through stuff and you can tell me this happened to you during your time, we tend, and it's like, I'm a faithful person, 100%. But I tell you, I stand on God's word, right? And I'm faithful. And I know He always going to bring me out. But there are moments when I doubt.
Yeah.
There are moments that doubt creep in, anxiety creep in, fear creeps in, and I'm like, okay, God, what am I going to do? I get doubtful, and I'm just like, I got to find something else. I got to do it. Did you ever have those moments during that time where you felt like, is this really what you want me to do, God? Or should I go back to looking for this job right now?
Did I have that moment even a month ago? Okay. Yeah, you do because being an entrepreneur is a faith walk.
Yes.
And we are the most unique individuals. We are visionaries. We have a hard time sleeping at night because as soon as we lay on the pillow, we're like, okay, the next thing, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, let me write that down.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Like we don't have a 9-to-5. People look at us like, and then, you'll get questions like, so you still doing such and such? Because they're waiting for you to say the 9-to-5ers, no judgment, but they're waiting for you to say that it failed or it didn't work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
they wish they can do that too. They were too afraid, and they're looking at
Yes.
you, wishing that they could have your life.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, I don't want my computer to die. But
Okay.
yeah, it's like, you still have those moments because it's
Yeah.
a faith walk. But what I learned is that you need community, and
Yeah.
you need community. And
Yes.
the more I'm around other entrepreneurs, and we're casting vision, but we're also sharing our pains. Like, okay,
Yes.
this month the business account was in the negative.
Okay.
When not even 4 months ago, it had like five, like 20 grand in it. What
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Entrepreneurs, we have to write checks out, for 6 months ahead sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
because we don't know when we're getting like the next contract. But
Yeah.
what I learned is that, I have to rely on the word. We have to rely on the word. He said that, I'll supply all your need according to my
Mm-hmm.
riches and glory. You know,
Yes.
and that if I feed the sparrow
Mm.
every day, who I didn't
Yeah.
even die for, they get up every day and fly to somewhere and eat. What more for us?
Yes. 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 Oh my goodness. Is your computer okay? Because we got time for more questions. Or
My battery's dying, and I have a client about to walk in.
okay, so you know what? We're gonna go ahead and end the show. Listen, I could have talked so much more, but this has been such an inspiring episode, and I'm super excited. I have to stay connected. We have to stay connected
I would love
because, like you say, you need those like-minded people that can kind of encourage you to stay on your journey of entrepreneurship, because it is a faith walk. So, Alishia, listen, thank you so much for being on the show with us. I appreciate your story. I know my listeners who are listening is going to find this to be so inspiring. And you have to come back because we have to finish.
Let's do a part 2. I would love it.
A part 2, so we can get more into the real estate, the market, the industry trends, stuff like that.
Yes.
So
Love that.
Great. Okay, good. So listen, guy, I am Shawnee Sanders. This is the Girl Techno Podcast, and we will talk to you next time.
And